Have you ever wondered what it truly takes to regulate something moving as fast and as complex as artificial intelligence? AI is just transforming our world at this incredible pace, but how exactly are we making sure it's safe and fair and, trustworthy for everyone?
It really is one of the defining challenges, isn't it? And the European Union has stepped up with, well, a landmark attempt to answer that, the Artificial Intelligence Act.
That's right. So, in this deep dive, we're unpacking the EU's groundbreaking AI Act. That's Regulation EU 2024-1689, officially. And our source material isn't just an article about it. No, we're going straight to the source, the actual EU regulation published July 12, 2024.
Yeah, and our mission today is really to cut through that dense legal text, give you a clear understanding of this massive piece of legislation. We'll look at its core aims, the opportunities it wants to unlock, and crucially, the protections it puts in place for all of us.
Think of it as your shortcut to being genuinely well informed on the AI Act. So, let's start with what you might call the AI paradox. This tech has incredible promise, but it also carries inherent risks. The EU seems very aware of both sides.
Oh, absolutely. The regulation kicks off by recognizing AI's immense potential. It talks about a wide array of economic, environmental, and societal benefits.
Yeah.
And the examples they list, it's just comprehensive. Everything from healthcare, agriculture, education, training, media, sports, infrastructure management,
Wow.
energy, transport, public services, security, justice, even things like climate change mitigation and biodiversity conservation. It really paints a picture of AI as a potential force for good.
That's a powerful vision for sure, but we know powerful tools can also pose serious threats. So what are the downsides the act is trying to tackle?
The Act is very direct about this. It states AI may generate risks and cause harm to public interests and fundamental rights.
Yeah.
And this isn't just abstract. It specifies material or immaterial harm, including physical, psychological, societal, or economic harm.
So it's not just about systems breaking, but real human impact, mental distress, discrimination, financial trouble.
Exactly. That's the scope of the concern.
And right at the heart of the EU's approach is this idea, this philosophy they call human-centric AI. What does that actually mean in practice?
It's absolutely foundational. The Act stresses that AI must always be a tool for people with the ultimate aim of increasing human well-being. It means AI development has to line up with core EU values, human dignity, freedom, equality, democracy, rule of law. It's about ensuring tech serves humanity, not the other way around.
Okay, so connecting that to the bigger picture then, the objective isn't to stop AI, but to shape it.
Precisely. The goal is to foster the development, use, and uptake of AI that at the same time meets a high level of protection of public interests, like health, safety, and fundamental rights. The EU explicitly wants to be a global leader in the development of secure, trustworthy, and ethical AI. That's the ambition.
Okay, but before you can regulate something, you have to define it. How does the EU AI Act define an AI system legally? This seems pretty crucial for knowing what's covered.
It is crucial, and it's quite a precise definition. Essentially, an AI system is a machine-based system designed to operate with, well, varying levels of autonomy or independence. The key bit is its ability to infer information from the input it receives.
Infer.
Yeah, infer. And then use that understanding to generate outputs like predictions, recommendations, maybe content, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments.
So that word infer really stands out. It sounds like they're trying to distinguish sophisticated AI from, say, just regular software.
That's exactly the distinction. The Act highlights this capability to infer as what sets AI apart. It says it transcends basic data processing by enabling learning, reasoning, or modeling. So the system isn't just following rigid pre-programmed steps, it's learning, it's adapting. And importantly, these AI systems can be standalone or just a component within a bigger product.
Right, got it. Now let's talk about the absolute no-goes. The Act draws some very clear red lines, practices that are just strictly forbidden. Why ban them outright?
These are the practices considered so fundamentally harmful, so contradictory to union values of respect for human dignity, freedom, equality, and fundamental rights, that the EU decided they just can't be safely regulated.
So they're off the table entirely.
Completely prohibited.
Okay, so what falls into that forbidden zone? What about AI designed to, say, manipulate or exploit people?
That's a big one. The Act bans AI systems using subliminal components or other manipulative or deceptive techniques that undermine a person's autonomy or free choice.
Influencing you without you realizing it.
Exactly. Or AI that exploits vulnerabilities like age, disability, or a specific social or economic situation to materially distort the behavior and cause significant harm. The key here is the effect. If the AI's impact is manipulative and causes significant harm, it's banned. Intent isn't the main factor.
Okay. And what about social scoring? That's a concept we hear about.
Explicitly banned. This means AI systems that evaluate or classify people based on their social behavior, where that social score then leads to bad treatment in unrelated areas, or treatment that's just unjustified or totally disproportionate to whatever behavior triggered it. Imagine being denied housing based on online posts, unrelated to your ability to pay rent. That's what this stops.
So no government or company creating a social credit score. Got it. What about using biometric data to categorize people based on sensitive characteristics?
Also prohibited. This means systems that use, say, facial scans to deduce or infer things like your race, political opinions, trade union membership, religious or philosophical beliefs, sex life, or sexual orientation.
That seems pretty comprehensive.
It is, though there's a very narrow exception. It allows for lawful labeling or filtering of lawfully acquired biometric data sets. Think sorting images by hair color for law enforcement seeking a specific description, not inferring beliefs.
Okay. And AI trying to read our emotions in sensitive places, like work or school.
Yes. Emotion recognition systems are banned in the workplace and education settings. The Act points to concerns about their limited reliability, the potential for discriminatory outcomes, and the inherent power imbalance in those situations. You don't want an AI deciding you're unsuitable based on misinterpreted frown.
Definitely not.
There is a carve-out, though, for genuine medical or safety reasons, but not for general assessment.
Right. No AI judging your mood in a job interview. Makes sense. How about scraping facial images from the web or CCTV without a specific target?
Another big prohibition. It bans creating or expanding facial recognition databases through the untargeted scraping of facial images from the internet or CCTV footage. The EU sees this as enabling mass surveillance and a gross violation of fundamental rights. It's about preventing the indiscriminate hoovering up of everyone's biometric data.
Okay. Predictive policing often comes up too. Is that completely banned?
The Act bans AI systems making risk assessments based solely on the profiling of a natural person or on assessing their personality traits and characteristics to predict if they'll commit a crime.
Solely. So the key is if it's only based on profiling.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't ban AI systems that support human assessment when that assessment is already based on objective, verifiable facts linked to a criminal activity. So it's against predicting future crime based purely on generalized profiles or perceived personality, not against tools that help analyze actual evidence.
Okay, this next one feels like a big one for many people. Real-time remote biometric identification in public spaces by law enforcement, like live facial recognition cameras. What's the deal there?
Generally, it's prohibited. The potential for misuse and the impact on fundamental rights are just seen as too high. However, the Act does lay out an exhaustively listed and narrowly defined set of exceptions strictly for law enforcement.
Okay, what are those very specific exceptions?
They include searching for specific victims, like missing children, tackling immediate specific threats to life or physical safety, or preventing a terrorist attack. And also locating or identifying perpetrators or suspects of specific, very serious crimes listed in Annex 2, things like terrorism, human trafficking, murder, rape, serious robbery.
So it's definitely not a free-for-all, even for the police. What are the conditions attached to those exceptions?
The conditions are incredibly strict. Use requires prior authorization granted by a judicial authority or an independent administrative authority, not just internal police sign-off.
A judge has to okay it.
Yes. And the use must be strictly proportionate, limited in time, location, and the people targeted. Plus, a fundamental rights impact assessment has to be done beforehand.
Okay, that sounds robust.
And there's this interesting urgency exception. In truly critical situations, they can start using it without prior authorization.
Oh.
But they absolutely must request that authorization without undue delay, within 24 hours at the latest.
And if it's denied?
If the authorization is rejected, the use must stop immediately, and all the data gathered has to be instantly discarded and deleted. It's a strong safeguard.
That is a strong check. What about post-remote biometric identification? So analyzing recorded footage later, not live feeds, is that banned too?
No, that's not prohibited, but it is subject to significant safeguards. It must be proportionate, legitimate, And strictly necessary, meaning it has to be targeted. You can't just sift through footage randomly. There needs to be a link to a specific criminal offense or the search for a missing person. And crucially, law enforcement can't make an adverse legal decision about someone solely based on the output of that system. It's a tool, not the final judge.
Okay. So moving past the banned list, we get to this category the Act calls high-risk AI. This seems to be where most of the detailed rules apply. How do they define high risk?
Right. These are AI systems identified as posing a significant risk of harm to the health, safety, or fundamental rights of natural persons. Getting classified as high risk is a big deal because it triggers a whole set of very stringent compliance requirements for both the developers and the users.
And the Act lists specific sectors and uses in Annex 3 that automatically fall into this high-risk category. Can you give us some examples that really illustrate the scope?
Sure. Think about biometrics, again, things like remote biometric ID for verification, or AI that categorizes people based on sensitive attributes derived from their biometrics. Then there's critical infrastructure, AI used as a safety component in managing road traffic, or the supply of water, gas, heating, electricity. Very critical stuff.
Definitely.
In education and vocational training, it gets very personal. Systems used to decide access or admission to schools or universities, systems that evaluate learning outcomes, or even those that monitor and detect prohibited behavior of students during tests, they're all high risk.
So AI deciding if you get into college or if you cheated on an exam, yeah, that definitely carries a high risk for an individual's life path.
Absolutely. Another huge area is employment, workers management. This covers AI for recruitment or selection, analyzing resumes, evaluating candidates during interviews, and also making decisions about promotions, terminations, or even just monitoring and evaluating employee performance and behavior on the job.
Wow, that impacts almost every aspect of working life. What other areas?
Access to essential services is key. This includes AI determining your eligibility for essential public assistance benefits and services. Think healthcare, Social Security, housing support, or AI used to evaluate credit score or creditworthiness. Basically, systems deciding if you qualify for vital services or financial resources.
Okay.
Then in law enforcement, beyond the prohibited uses, high risk includes systems assessing someone's risk of becoming a victim, polygraph-like systems, tools evaluating evidence reliability, or assessing risk of offending or reoffending.
And what about areas like migration or the justice system itself?
Right. In migration, asylum, and border control, systems used to examine applications for asylum, visas, or residence permits, or those used to detect or identify people at borders, are high risk. And finally, in the administration of justice and democratic processes, AI assisting judges in research or interpretation, or AI that could influence the outcome of an election or referendum or the voting behavior, unless it's just a basic campaign tool that's also high risk.
That is an incredibly broad list, touching almost everywhere AI could have a really significant impact. But I noticed there's something called a not high risk derogation. So even if an AI system is in one of these areas, it might not be deemed high risk. How does that work?
That's a really important nuance. An AI system that technically falls into a high-risk category might be considered not high risk if it meets certain conditions.
Hmm.
For example, if it only performs a narrow procedural task, or if it just improves the result of a previously completed human activity rather than replacing it,
So if it's just an assistant, not the decision maker.
sort of. Or if it only detects decision-making patterns without influencing the assessment, or performs a purely preparatory task before the actual assessment. However, there's a big catch. If the system involves profiling individuals, it always remains high risk no matter what. That derogation doesn't apply to profiling.
Ah, okay. Profiling is always high risk. Got it. So for those systems that are confirmed as high risk, what are the main requirements developers and users need to meet? Let's talk about building trust and safety.
It really starts with a robust risk management system. And this isn't just a one-time check. It's a continuous iterative process.
Right.
You have to constantly identify and mitigate risks to health, safety, and fundamental rights throughout the AI's entire life cycle.
Yeah.
And you have to consider not just the intended purpose, but also any reasonably foreseeable misuse.
So continuously checking for risks, even unexpected ones. What about the data used to train these systems? Bias is such a huge concern.
That's addressed directly through very strict rules on data governance and quality. The Act demands high-quality training, validation, and testing data sets. It specifically mandates data minimization and data protection by design and by default when personal data is involved. And crucially, it requires processes for bias detection and correction. If you need to use sensitive data for this bias checking, There are strict safeguards, pseudonymization, strong controls, deletion after use.
Okay, high-quality, fair data is key. And transparency, how does the Act make sure users actually understand what these high-risk systems are doing?
High-risk AI must be designed so deployers, the users, can understand how the AI system works, evaluate its functionality, and comprehend its strengths and limitations. They have to come with clear instructions of use, covering performance details, foreseeable risks, and the human oversight measures needed. It's about giving people the info to use it responsibly.
And that leads right into human oversight. Does the Act require a human in the loop for high-risk AI?
Often, yes. Systems need to be designed for human oversight. They need inbuilt operational constraints and must respond to human operators who have the right competence, training, and authority.
Mhm.
And for certain biometric systems, there's an even stronger, enhanced human oversight requirement. No action or decision can be taken based on the AI's identification unless it's been separately verified and confirmed by at least two people.
A two-person check for critical biometric ID. Interesting. Beyond oversight, what about just basic performance, accuracy, reliability?
Absolutely fundamental. High-risk AI systems shall achieve an appropriate level of accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity, and they need to perform consistently throughout their life cycle. It means being precise, resilient to errors or manipulation, and secure against cyber threats.
And finally, providers need a proper quality management system. What does that involve?
Exactly. They need a documented system that covers their strategy for regulatory compliance. This includes procedures for assessing conformity and managing any modifications or updates to the high-risk AI system safely and transparently. It's about systematic compliance.
Okay, so with all these requirements, who is actually accountable? Who's on the hook if a high-risk AI system fails or causes harm?
The primary responsibility falls squarely on the providers, the developers, the manufacturers. They're responsible for ensuring compliance with all the requirements. That means the technical documentation, the record keeping, the quality management, post-market monitoring, all of it. They also have to take corrective actions if something goes wrong, and crucially, report serious incidents to the authorities.
And what counts as a serious incident?
It's defined pretty broadly. It includes death, serious harm to health, serious disruption of critical infrastructure, serious infringement of fundamental rights, or significant damage to property or the environment caused by the AI system.
Okay, what about providers based outside the EU? Can they just sell into Europe without following these rules?
No way. Providers based outside the EU who want to place AI systems on the union market must appoint an authorized representative established within the union. This representative acts as the contact point for authorities and shares responsibility for ensuring compliance. The rules apply to anyone targeting the EU market.
Right. And what about others in the chain, like importers or distributors? Do they have responsibilities too?
Yes, they do. They have obligations to verify that the AI systems they handle comply with the Act. They need to cooperate with authorities and report any non-compliance or risks they become aware of. It's a shared responsibility across the supply chain.
Okay, then there are the deployers, the actual users, maybe a hospital using an AI diagnostic tool or a company using an AI hiring system. What's their role?
Deployers play a critical role. They must use the AI system according to the instructions for use provided. They need to monitor its operation in practice. And they have a duty to inform the provider or distributor, and potentially the authorities, if they suspect the system poses a risk or if a serious incident occurs. They're the ones seeing it work or not work in the real world.
I also saw something called a Fundamental Rights Impact Assessment, or FRIA. Who needs to do that and what is it?
Yes, the FRIA. This is required for public authorities and also for private entities providing public services before they put a high-risk AI system into use. Think of it as a mandatory risk assessment specifically focused on fundamental rights. It has to identify specific risks to the rights of individuals or groups that could arise from using the AI.
Like discrimination.
Exactly. Discrimination, privacy infringements, impacts on freedom of expression, things like that. And importantly, the FRA must also outline the measures they'll take to mitigate those risks. This assessment then needs to be notified to the relevant market surveillance authority.
So, if an AI system makes a decision that affects you personally, say, denies you a benefit or a job, do you have a right to understand why?
Yes, absolutely. The Act establishes a clear right to explanation.
Mm.
If a decision produces legal effects, or similarly significantly affects you, and it's based mainly on the output from a high-risk AI system, and you feel it adversely impacts your health, safety, or fundamental rights, then you have the right to get clear and meaningful explanations from the deployer about the AI's role and the main factors behind the decision. It's about transparency and contestability.
That seems like a vital protection. Okay, this framework for high-risk AI is very detailed, but what about the underlying technology, those really big foundational AI models, the general purpose AI models, or GPAMs, things like large language models? How are they regulated?
This is a really significant and relatively new part of the regulation. GPAMs are defined as models trained on vast amounts of data, often using self-supervision, displaying significant generality, and capable of performing a wide range of different tasks competently. They're seen as essential components of many AI systems, but they aren't AI systems themselves. Think of the big models like GPT-4, Claude, Llama, the engines driving many generative AI applications, creating text, images, code, etc.
Right, the underlying tech. And some of these can pose systemic risks. How is that decided?
Yes, a GPM might be classified as having systemic risk if it possesses high-impact capabilities, basically, if its performance meets or beats the most advanced models out there. Another trigger is if it has a significant impact on the internal market due to its reach. One key, though not sole indicator for high-impact capabilities, is the sheer cumulative amount of computation used for the training, measured in FLOPS, floating point operations.
So, how much computing power went into building it?
Exactly. But they also consider other factors like the training data size and quality, the number of users, the model's autonomy, and the tools it can access. These are the models with potentially huge societal influence.
Okay, so these really powerful foundational models face specific obligations. What are they?
Similar to high-risk AI, GPM providers need to maintain technical documentation and a quality management system. But here's a really crucial one specific to GPMs. They must draw up and make publicly available a sufficiently detailed summary of the content used for training the general-purpose AI model.
A summary of the training data.
Yes, including identifying text and data protected by copyright law. The idea is this summary should be generally comprehensive rather than technically exhaustive, specifically to help copyright holders understand if their work might have been used. The new AI office will even provide a template for this summary.
That's huge for creators. Is there an exception for open source models? That seems important for innovation.
There is. Some obligations, like detailed documentation, don't apply to providers of AI models released under a free and open source license, where the parameters, weights, architecture, etc. are publicly available. This definitely encourages open innovation. However, this open source exception does not apply to those general-purpose AI models classified as having systemic risk.
Ah, so the most powerful ones still have obligations, even if open source.
Correct. They're considered too impactful to be exempt from the core safety and transparency rules.
So for those systemic risk GPM, what additional requirements do they face beyond the basic GPM rules?
They have several extra layers. They must perform the necessary model evaluations, including rigorous adversarial testing to proactively find and fix vulnerabilities. They also need to continuously assess and mitigate systemic risks that might emerge after deployment. Cybersecurity is also heightened, ensuring an adequate level of cybersecurity protection for the model and its physical infrastructure.
And incident reporting.
Yes, they must report serious incidents stemming from the model to the Commission and relevant national authorities. Interestingly, the AI office is tasked with encouraging and facilitating codes of practice to help these providers comply. It suggests a slightly more collaborative approach for these cutting-edge models.
Okay, let's shift to another critical aspect. Transparency. How does the Act ensure we know when we're dealing with AI or when content is AI generated, especially with deepfakes becoming so convincing?
There's a general principle. Natural persons should be notified that they are interacting with an AI system, unless this is obvious from the context. Simple enough. This also applies specifically when AI systems are processing biometric data to infer emotions or intentions, or to categorize people based on traits like sex, age, hair color, etc. And this info needs to be accessible for people with disabilities.
Right, basic awareness. But deepfakes are a major concern. How are they tackled?
This is a core focus. First, providers of AI systems that generate synthetic audio, image, video, or text content must ensure the outputs are technically marked. They need to be marked in a machine-readable format and detectable as artificially generated or manipulated. This could involve watermarks, metadata, cryptographic signatures, fingerprints, various technical methods.
So the file itself should carry a hidden label, basically. What about the person using the AI to create a deepfake?
Good question. If a deployer uses AI to generate or manipulate image, audio, or video content that looks realistically like existing people, places, or events, what we call deepfakes, and it could falsely appear authentic, then that deployer must clearly and distinguishably disclose that the content has been artificially created or manipulated. This means labeling the output clearly for the human viewer, disclosing its artificial origin.
So a visible label for deepfakes. What about AI-generated text, like articles presented as news?
Similar rule. If AI-generated text is published with the purpose of informing the public on matters of public interest, it also needs disclosure. The exception is if that content has undergone a process of human review or editorial control, and a person or entity takes editorial responsibility for it.
So if a human editor signs off, no label needed.
Seems so. And importantly, the Act clarifies these transparency rules shouldn't hinder freedom of expression or artistic freedom. Content that's clearly creative, satirical, artistic, or fictional is generally okay without these specific labels.
Okay. Now, all these rules, especially for high-risk AI, sound like they could be tough on smaller companies or startups. How does the Act try to balance regulation with fostering innovation?
That's a really important point, and the Act tries to address it through AI regulatory sandboxes. These are basically controlled experimentation and testing environments set up at the national level. The goal is to let innovators test AI systems, especially high-risk ones, under strict regulatory oversight. It aims to give them more legal certainty, help regulators learn, and speed up market access, particularly for SMEs, by lowering some barriers.
A safe space to test things out?
Exactly. And critically, if participants stick to their approved testing plan and follow the guidance from the authorities in good faith, they generally won't face administrative fines for infringements during that sandbox testing.
That's a significant incentive.
It is. And the Act specifically gives priority access to the AI regulatory sandboxes to SMEs and startups. Microenterprises might even get to use a simplified manner for things like quality management systems.
Okay, so sandboxes are one route. Can high-risk AI also be tested in real-world conditions outside a sandbox?
Yes, that's also possible, but under strict conditions. It requires a detailed, real-world testing plan submitted to the Market Surveillance Authority first. You generally need informed consent from any people involved as subjects, with specific protections for vulnerable groups. There needs to be a written agreement outlining everyone's responsibilities, and there must be effective oversight, plus the crucial ability to effectively reverse or disregard any decisions or outputs from the AI system during the test. Serious incidents still need reporting, of course.
And does the Act encourage positive uses of AI?
It does. It explicitly encourages member states to support and promote research and development of AI solutions in support of socially and environmentally beneficial outcomes. Examples given include AI for accessibility for persons with disabilities, tackling socioeconomic inequalities, or meeting environmental goals. It's not just about risk, it's also about potential benefits.
This all sounds incredibly comprehensive, but who's actually going to enforce all of this? Who's keeping watch across the EU?
It's a multi-layered governance structure. At the EU level, the big new player is the AI office, set up within the European Commission. Its job is to build EU expertise and help implement the AI law consistently. Then there's the European AI Board, which brings together representatives from all the member states. They advise the Commission and help harmonize how the rules are applied across different countries.
So the board ensures everyone's on the same page, ideally. Who else is involved at the EU level?
There's a scientific panel of independent experts who advise the AI office, particularly crucial for flagging potential systemic risks from those big general-purpose AI models. And an advisory forum brings in stakeholders, industry, startups, civil society, academia, to provide broader input and diverse perspectives. Then at the national level, each member state has to designate competent authorities, including at least one notifying authority and one market surveillance authority. These national bodies must be independent, impartial, and properly resourced.
Okay, those national market surveillance authorities sound key. What powers do they actually have?
They have significant enforcement powers. They can demand access to information, including personal data being processed by an AI system, if needed for their investigation. They can carry out inspections, including unannounced ones, either remotely or on-site. And they have the power to order corrective actions, like forcing a non-compliant AI system to be withdrawn or recalled from the market. They are the frontline enforcers.
And for those huge general-purpose AI models, the GPAMs with systemic risk who supervises them specifically, is it the national authorities?
No, for those systemic risk GPAMs, the supervision is centralized. The Commission shall have exclusive powers to supervise and enforce those specific rules, and it entrusts these tasks to the AI Office. The AI Office can investigate potential infringements by GPAM providers, demand documentation, even request access to the model itself through APIs or even source code if necessary.
Access the source code. Wow.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
They can conduct evaluations and order measures like restricting the model's availability, withdrawing it, or recalling it. It's significant power over the most influential AI foundations.
Okay, so what happens if companies don't comply? We've talked about requirements, but what are the penalties? This must be where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. The penalties are designed to have